Let's have a vote on the assault weapons ban. Let's have a vote on banning high-capacity magazines. Let's vote on every single gun violence bill and stay in that chamber until those votes are done.
That was California Democratic Congressman Khanna back in 2019 after the deadly mass shooting in El Paso, Texas. 2+ years ago and too many mass shootings ago. And Congressman Khanna joins me now. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. There have been many mass shootings, even since then, when you said Democratic leaders should lock the doors to the Capitol and force these votes. Right now, your party controls both chambers and the White House. Are Democratic Party leaders doing enough on gun control?
No, we have passed enough in the House. I mean, we have passed the universal background check. We have passed the assault weapons ban. But there needs to be action in the Senate. And I think there ought to be votes every single day on these common sense measures. I mean, one of the common sense measures is if you can't get alcohol under 21, how are you getting assault weapons ban? I'm for banning of full assault weapons, but at least we can agree that you shouldn't be able to get them if you're 18, 19, 20.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just even, I know the filibuster arguments, you and I have had them, we've had them many times on this show about the existence of the filibuster, but it's just even the rhetoric. I've heard people like Chris Murphy, Dick Durbin, Chuck Schumer talk about, requesting their Republican colleagues, begging even their Republican colleagues to get on board. Number one, those Republican colleagues are not getting on board. And number two, you don't need them to get on board. You have the vote if it wasn't for the damn filibuster.
Well, and the Republican senators' comments yesterday, I mean, it's almost like you could play it on tape from the past comments. They say the same exact thing. They didn't even wait a few hours, and they're saying, well, it's not guns, it's mental health illness, it's security, school security. So nothing's going to change. My view is force the vote and force them on single issues, common sense issues again and again and again, so that there's clarity of exactly where people stand. And do this for 2 weeks. Do it for 3 weeks. Don't put it in one package. Okay, the Republicans are opposed to universal background checks. They're opposed to banning assault weapons from kids. They're opposed to making sure that you have red flag laws, that if someone is threatening their mother or threatening their grandmother, you can go to a court to take their guns away. I mean, go after issue by issue and show just how extreme their positions are and put them on record.
I agree with you. And it's interesting you say do it 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks when Congress is shutting down for several days to have a holiday for Memorial Day. So that's, I think a lot of people at home will be wondering how senators in particular have time for a break when 19 kids have just been massacred. Congressman, I want to play some sound of Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz this week speaking with Sky News, the UK news organization.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
It's easy to go to politics.
But it's important. It's at the heart of the issue.
I get that that's where the media likes to go.
No, it's not. It's where many of the people we've talked to here like to go.
The proposals from Democrats in the media, inevitably, when some violent psychopath murders people.
A violent psychopath who's able to get a weapon so easily. 18-year-old with 2 AR-15s.
If you want to stop violent crime, the proposals the Democrats have, none of them would have stopped this.
But why does this only happen in your country? I really think that's what many people around the world they cannot fathom. Why only in America? Why is this American exceptionalism so awful?
I'm sorry you think American exceptionalism is awful.
I think this aspect of it.
You got your political agenda.
No, it's honestly,
God love you.
Senator, it's not. I just want to understand why you do not think that guns are the problem.
Congressman, putting aside Ted Cruz's inability to answer simple questions without running away effectively, just deal with the substance of it, if you can call it substance. Republicans often say that the proposals your party offers would not have supported this or that shooting. Sometimes they're right. I hate to be fair to them, but sometimes, the background check wouldn't have stopped the shooter, the waiting period wouldn't have stopped the shooter. What is your overall response to this argument when they say, piecemeal? You mentioned go after them, individual vote, individual vote. They're going to come back and say, well, this individual thing wouldn't have worked in this particular shooting. How do you get around that?
Well, by starting with what would have worked in this shooting, and that is that if you say that people under 21 shouldn't get these kind of assault weapons, obviously, by definition, that would have worked. And many of these shooters, mass shooters, are people between 18 and 21, 18 and 25, who are committing these horrific acts. Second, it would have worked if you had red flag laws. I mean, we know this person had made threats against his mother, had made threats against his grandmother. It seems to me it's obvious you don't want someone like that having guns. I mean, we can make a debate about whether that person should have a police action or not, but at least take the guns away from them. Those are two things that would have worked in this circumstance. And then we can look at all the other mass shootings, and we can look at the laws that would have worked in those cases. In some cases, the universal background check would have worked. In other cases, banning the magazine clips would have worked. So, you know, all of these cases, they would have made it more preventable.
You're being far too analytical, Congressman, for the modern Republican Party that just wants to talk about evil and pray. Let's talk about Steve Kerr, Golden State's Warrior coach. You've teamed up with him in the past to talk about gun safety, I know. I want to play some of him speaking this week, reacting to the Texas shooting. Have a listen.
When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of the, I'm sorry. I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough. 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check. 90% of us, we are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
It felt, Congressman, this week like Steve Kerr was speaking for the nation. And I wonder, do non-politicians, people like Steve Kerr, do they need to be the ones leading the charge on an issue like guns, which the Republicans have so politicized and turned into a partisan talking point?
Absolutely. I mean, look, this is personal for Steve Kerr. People who don't know his story, I mean, he lost his father to gun violence. This is not some political issue. It's deeply, deeply personal, and it comes across that it's authentic. I've said to Steve that he needs to be more vocal. I've said he should be running for office or whatever to get people to pay attention. But I'll tell you why people are so frustrated. It's not just the horror of seeing kids blown up. It's not just the fear of what's going to happen to our young kids and the moral stain of a nation that doesn't care enough about kids. It's the frustration that people's voice doesn't matter in a democracy. That 90% of people want something, and you can't get that through. And this is not just on gun violence. This is on issue after issue. It's a feeling of helplessness and disempowerment as citizens. And I think that is part of the utter anger and frustration that's going on.
Maybe if Senator Dianne Feinstein ever relinquishes her California Senate seat, Steve Kerr can run for that seat. Or maybe you will, and you'll run against each other. Let's see. One last question.
He'd have my support. He'd have my support.
Okay, you heard it here. You heard it here first, Steve Kerr. Last question on an equally important related issue. You've been calling attention this week to a recent incident in which a 14-year-old Indian-American student in Texas was seen on video being bullied, being put into a headlock. The student who was put in the headlock, who did the headlock, reportedly got the student who was put in the headlock reportedly got a longer suspension than the person who put him in the headlock, outrageously, many would argue. What do you want people to know about this incident?
I just hope people could look at the video. It is horrifying. You have this 14-year-old Indian boy who's sitting there, not responding in any violent way, and this person is basically has him in a chokehold. I thought he could have lost consciousness. I thought he could be paralyzed. And this is going on, and the young man, the young Indian American, is still fearful of being bullied. And so you had 4 Indian Americans in Congress, all of us, right? We rarely have come together before saying he needs to be treated fairly, there needs to be accountability, and he needs to be protected. And the response so far has been very unsatisfactory.
Yes, indeed. And it's a reminder that the violence in this country often has a racist tinge. Buffalo was not just a mass shooting, it was a racist mass murder. And a lot of the bullying in schools is not just violent bullying, it's racist violent bullying. Congressman Khanna, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.